So good evening and welcome to the Utility Bills Workshop. We are going to record this tonight so that y'all can listen to it at any date you wish. And I'll also have these slides available. I just want to start by both thanking y'all for coming out, but also letting you guys know exactly what we're trying to do tonight with the basic learning goals. The goal tonight is that we help everyone to better understand each of their utility bills, and so they understand what they pay for, so that you actually can understand whether you pay too much, whether you have an issue that needs to be fixed. And then we're also going to provide a number of resources that can help you to reduce your bills, either by reducing your usages or just to help you pay your bills if you're struggling. So you guys probably already know there are three main utilities that you're going to have: gas, water, electric. Two of those you don't really have an option. So if you're in this is geared more towards the west side of the city of Atlanta, where you are going to be on city water and sewer, and you're going to be on Georgia Power's electricity system. Georgia Power is what's considered a regulated monopoly, so you don't have a choice of who you can get electricity from. If you're on the west side, you're going to get it from Georgia Power. You do, however, have a choice of gas companies, and we will talk a little bit more about that later on. We'll jump straight into it with water. So under the city of Atlanta, you're going to have your bills through the Department of Watershed. This slide kind of shows you an idea of what the bill looks like. It's an online interface, but I kind of cherry-picked a couple of the windows from it. There's both on the left-hand side a depiction of what you're actually what you're billed for this month, as well as on the right-hand side a kind of a graph of what your usage is for this month versus last month. So this, you can see this month my usage was, the usage was 3 CCF. Last month was 2 CCF. So what's a CCF? A CCF is just a volume. It's approximately 750 gallons of water. So this bill for 3 CCF is for 2,250 gallons. So when they come and read your meter, they're going to look at what the last measurement was and this measurement was, and whatever the difference is rounded to the nearest CCF is what you're going to get billed for. So you can see you pay for both water and sewer. So they kind of charge you twice. And you can actually see that the sewer cost is actually higher than your water cost. And that's because it just costs more money to deal with the water once you've given it back to the sewer system than it does to actually get the water to you in the first place. And you can see all of Atlanta's water rates at this link, atlantawatershed.org/water rates. But I've kind of curated it right here in this table from that site. And you can see how exactly they break down what you're paying for. So there's always a base charge. You can see both on the monthly water rates, both the water and the sewer rates, that there is a $6.56 base charge. So regardless of whether or not you use any water that month, you're going to pay about $13 regardless, because you need to maintain the system. If you were to buy water, you have customer service, etc., that is always there as a customer. Then you pay for the water on top of that. So Atlanta has what's called a tiered structure. And so as you use more, you actually pay more per gallon of water. And so when you are on this first tier, this 0 to 3 CCF, you're going to pay only about, so you pay $2.58 for water and then $9.74 for the sewer. So that together is about $13. When you start stepping up, so if you're using 4 or 5 CCF, you're then going to be charged more like $18 or $19 per CCF. And then if you're over 6 CCF, it's like $21 total per CCF. So there's a really big incentive here to use less water. The more water you use, the more you're paying per gallon. And so it is even more beneficial if you're a high user to implement these cost-cutting measures. So the typical household and the typical American uses about 100 gallons per day. That figure includes outdoor water use, so watering and like car washing and stuff. Those use a lot of water, and so when you look at it more like a typical user that doesn't do outdoor watering, etc., the usage is quite a bit lower. But if you were to use 100 gallons per day per person, that'll cost you about $70 per month per person on Atlanta's rates. So we have very high water rates in the city of Atlanta, particularly around sewer. There's a lot of we're under what's called a consent decree. And so we actually are fixing a lot of remedial system components in our sewer system and remedying combined sewer systems. So we pay very, very high prices for our water. On that note of like both paying for water and sewer, the city of Atlanta assumes that every drop of water that comes out of your faucet that you're paying for is going through the sewer system, unless you have one of these irrigation meters. But that's, again, kind of beyond the scope of what I want to talk about today. But know that the city of Atlanta assumes that any water that you're pulling from the tap is going back into the sewer system. And so you're going to pay for it essentially twice. Your usage is probably split fairly evenly among the different uses in your house. So toilets use the most water in your house, and then showers, faucets, and then clothes washers. But they're all pretty close to the same. So I would weight all of them fairly equally in terms of trying to save water. However, some of them are easier to save on. So I want to quickly go over some of the programs that are available for some of the programs that are available for customers of the city of Atlanta. First off being senior discounts. I know a lot of the West Side has a lot of seniors. Atlanta's water offers a 30% discount for low-income seniors. So I highly, highly encourage that any seniors in the area should see if they're eligible as a low-income senior. And the link is provided right here. There's also a few other programs. There's Care and Conserve, which is another City of Atlanta program that actually provides free repair and replacement for plumbing to, again, it's not necessarily just seniors, but I think it's primarily focused on seniors. But if you apply for this program and you have some sort of like leak or a broken fixture, they will actually hire a contractor to fix your plumbing for you for free. And kind of coupled hand in hand with fixing leaks and correcting your bill. There's also a bill correction program that Atlanta runs that basically allows you to take off any excess charges. So if I see this a lot on like Nextdoor, we'll see someone will post about, my water bill is $300 this year because my toilet broke or something. What do I do? Well, if you can prove that the water bill was high because of a leak, and you can get it fixed and prove that you fixed it, whether that's like receipts for things or like hiring a plumber. If you can prove that you corrected the leak and the bill comes back down, they will actually remove that charge and they will charge you as if you never had that leak. It's a super valuable service for anyone who's like would really be struggling if they suddenly had a bill that was 3 times higher. So I highly, highly recommend that if you ever have a major event to look into that as well. And last program I want to cover is Atlanta's toilet rebate program, which like we were saying, the toilets use about a quarter of your water. They're the highest using item in your house. And Atlanta will actually give you $75 off your next bill if you replace one of your old toilets that's pre-1993 with a new model. There's some other stipulations that apply, but basically what it comes down to is if you can show the receipts or the installation costs that you paid a plumber to install the toilet, they will give you $75 off your bill. And then, you know, from there forward, you'll save easily probably about $100 a year in water costs as well. So there's a huge savings to be gotten from the toilet rebate program. So I highly recommend that people look into that if they have an older house. The last thing on water is just options for reducing your usage. My goal tonight isn't to, you know, tell you to use less or to, you know, dramatically change your habits per se, but I do want to make sure that y'all have have resources that, you know, help you understand what options you have for reducing your usage. The city of Atlanta every year runs what's called Fix a Leak Week. I think this year's was in April or May. It's already concluded, but I put a link in here on on the first bullet point to the Fix a Leak Week page. They write articles and have how-to videos on changing out faucets and shower heads and fixing and checking and fixing leaks and things like that. So there's lots of great resources there. And to the second bullet point, we can replace some of our fixtures, and these are like a really low-hanging fruit. So it's really easy to replace the faucet aerators and the shower heads in your house and save like $200 on your water and energy bills. Because remember, when you use hot water, not only do you use your not only are you using water, but you're also using energy to heat that water. And a lot of times the energy to heat the water is actually more expensive than the water was to begin with. So I want to make it clear that, like, you know, there's really easy low-hanging options that even like renters can take advantage of if they pay their water bill. And if you want any more research on that, again, check out Fix a Leak Week. And I'm always available. I really like helping people to figure out how to do energy efficiency things and how to improve their homes. So I'm always happy. My information is in the chat, will be in the chat, and you can always reach out to me if you're interested. So the last point I want to make on this is to use your dishwasher. It's a smaller point. It's not one of the major use cases, although it does tie heavily into that faucets category. Modern dishwashers use far less water than cleaning dishes by hand. A lot of people don't believe that or understand that, but it's almost always true. In theory, you could probably wash dishes more efficiently by hand if you really tried, but 9 times out of 10, you know, almost everyone uses more water to wash by hand. So use a dishwasher. It's easier and it's more efficient. We're going to move on to gas and cover this a little bit more complex topic. So there's a few different options here, and there's a different ownership structure here. So the first thing to know is that the gas infrastructure, like all the gas lines, the pipes, the meters, those are owned by Atlanta Gas Light. And then you buy your gas from gas marketers, and they provide the actual gas and they provide customer service. So you can think of this kind of like UPS. You know, if you order a package, or like, you know, if you order a product from a company, they're probably not going to deliver it on their truck. They're probably going to give it to UPS, and UPS sends it to you. You can kind of think of it the same way. AGL is the carrier. They deliver the product, but they don't make the product. They don't sell you the product. The marketer is the one who sells you the product, and then AGL delivers it. There are approximately 8 natural gas marketers right now to choose from. They vary fairly frequently, but there are currently about 8 natural gas marketers to choose from on our marketplace. And if you want to compare them, you can go to Georgia Public Service Commission's website. So Georgia Public Service Commission is the regulating body in Georgia. They regulate all of the utilities. So they set rates and they oversee terms and different programs. So they're a very important entity to know about. They also put together this marketer pricing sheet every year, and I can bring you there. So if you follow that link, it'll bring you to the Georgia Public Service Commission website. And every quarter, they put together this price comparison sheet. You click on the most recent one, and it will show you the cheapest current suppliers for each rate or for each kind of service. So there's seniors, and then there's standard customers. The one thing I'll note here is that they also provide on that right-hand column, they break down your bill into like an apples to apples comparison. So they kind of like total it up and they divide by the number of therms and they show like what an apples to apples comparison per therm is to compare the different companies. So this is a super useful spreadsheet. This only shows you the top ones, so that the cheapest ones. However, if you really want to know more, you can always go and download the whole price chart and see every marketer that's available, every rate plan they offer, etc. But you can also look at here to see I believe, the cheapest. So here's about what's on your bill. This is, so I can't tell you exactly what your bill is going to look like because there are multiple marketers, and but I can tell you that I can give you an example, and all of the bills should contain roughly the same information. So this is a SCANA Energy bill. I pulled it from their site. They have a sample bill page that kind of runs you through what's on your bill. So I recommend, if you have more questions, check out their site. On here, the main thing here is number 3, 4, and 5. They show you what your actual usage is. So here you can see CCF pops up again, but they convert it into what's called therms. So most of the time you will pay for your gas in therms. It's another measurement of energy. It's not really important what it is. But what you do need to know is that right by number 6, it shows you that each therm costs about 60 cents. They vary. Sometimes they're, $50 to $1, $2, etc. But they're pretty cheap. And then there are a bunch of other charges on your bill. Number 7 is a customer service charge that you pay directly to the marketer, which is just like that base fee on water. You're always going to pay it no matter what you use. So because they need to maintain billing systems and everything else. The number 8 is something I do want to talk about a little bit more, though. It's the AGL pass-through charge. So this you can see so it's $31.95. It's actually more expensive than the natural gas consumption itself. And that's because this is basically the cost to maintain the system. So this is money that goes, as it says, it passes through, it goes directly to AGL, Atlanta Gas Light, who owns all the infrastructure, and it pays for them to maintain their system. So basically what we're hearing here is that it actually, in some months, it costs more to actually ship the gas than it does to provide the product itself, which is just how it works. It's an unavoidable variable charge to maintain the infrastructure, and it's based off a pretty complex calculation based on like your maximum usage in the year. But the main point to understand is that you pay it throughout the year, not just during the winter when you're using a ton, not in the off season. It's kind of all year round, but it'll vary between, if you're a low user, it might be like $20 a month in the summertime because it kind of goes down in the summertime. But in the wintertime, it'll ramp back up. And if you're a higher user, it can be well over $60. So that's something important to keep in mind, that this is a pretty substantial part of your bill, and it's completely unavoidable, basically. If you use less, the only way to avoid it is to use less, but it will always be there no matter how much you use. If you use 0, it will still be there. So there are ways to save, especially around choosing the right marketer and choosing the right rate. And the main thing I want to point out here is that there are fixed rate options and they are much, much cheaper. So I want to bring you back over to the pricing spreadsheet on the Public Service Commission's website. And you can see here that the variable rates here are about twice as expensive as the fixed rates. So that means that you're going to pay twice as much, almost, you're going to have almost twice as big of a bill on a variable plan as you will on a fixed plan. So I always recommend people to lock in a marketer and choose a fixed rate. You're going to be locked into that rate for 12 months, but if you own a gas line, if you have gas appliances, you'll continue to buy gas. So I highly recommend take a look at it, choose a fixed rate, and look at the marketers and choose the cheapest marketer, or unless you have a specific issue with one or like one specifically, but many of them are very similar. The other programs that are offered that you can save you money, like I was saying, every one of these utilities has a senior discount. The senior discount for gas is through AGL. It's a $14 a month reduction to that AGL pass-through cost, and it's for qualifying low-income seniors. There is more information about all of these on Atlanta Gas Light's site, which is linked at the bottom of this slide. There's also LIHEAP, which is the Low Income Home Energy Assistance Program. This is basically just bill assistance. So if you are struggling to make your bills, you can contact LIHEAP, and if you qualify, they will essentially just pay your bills for you, or they'll pay a portion of your bills for you. So this is a huge help for low-income customers that are struggling, that are nearing getting their utilities shut off. This is always available throughout the year. There's HopeWorks that actually will repair or replace gas furnaces and water heaters for seniors. And then again, all of this there's a few other programs as well that are all available on Atlanta Gas Light's site. So I recommend checking out that link at the bottom. Finally, we're going to talk a little bit about reducing your use, but most of this is going to overlap with electric because of the fact that your gas appliances kind of serve the same function as electric appliances. So you can have a gas furnace, you can have a electric heat pump, you can have a gas or electric water heater. So we're going to cover most of that in the electric section more generally. And then you can also remember that, when you're using hot water, you're using water, but you're also using energy. So you should reduce your water use to reduce your energy use as well. But I do want to, before I leave the topic of gas, I really do want to cover safety, because there are some very real hazards that come along with gas appliances. First of all, I want to talk about leaks. I know I've been to a lot of places that have, that faint underlying smell of rotten eggs. They add an odorant to natural gas so that you can easily smell a leak. A lot of people, you get accustomed to it, you don't think of anything of it, it's really faint. But I will say that any leak is a major fire hazard, because if you have a leak, it means that there is a point at which that mixture or that gas is leaking and is flammable. And so it means that you have a point source where a fire could start at any time. So it's a very, very large fire risk. I very, very highly recommend that if you smell that gas, that you should do something about it, like either track down the leak or hire someone who can effectively fix that sort of leak. A really good time to check for leaks is when you first come home. So a lot of times, if you're moving around the house and the air is mixing around and the HVAC is on, you're not going to smell a leak because it gets mixed up so quickly. But when you first come home and if the air conditioning's been off and you walk into your kitchen, say, you might smell gas then, even if you don't normally later in the day. That's a great time to tell that there's a gas leak. So again, just be cognizant of that, and I highly recommend that you take action immediately, not much later, and don't worry about it. The other thing that's very, very important about gas safety is carbon monoxide. Um, every house should have a carbon monoxide detector, but especially near gas burning appliances. Carbon monoxide it's a potential product of burning natural gas. It's odorless, it's colorless, but it's also very poisonous, and it will both it's very like hazardous in acute level, so it can uh kill you like in your sleep essentially, but it can also over time exposure to it will poison you, and you will have degrading health effects uh due to long-term exposure. So it is both bad in high and low quantities, and it's something that you really need to be looking out for. Everyone should have a carbon monoxide detector, especially near gas burning appliances. And the last thing I want to cover is air quality. And just note that gas appliances do produce other like pollutants. There's particulate matter, there's nitrogen oxides, and they essentially create smog in your home. You might not see it. Everyone's seen a picture of like Los Angeles with smog covering it, but that's when you're looking through a mile of air and it looks hazy. Well, if you're looking through 20 feet of air, even that really polluted air won't look hazy, but you can very much have heavy amounts of smog inside your home that it's caused by these particulate and nitrogen oxides. This really, really severely increases the rates and severity of asthma and other conditions, and we know that uh, rates of asthma are very highly correlated with income. Actually, like children from lower income houses uh, that have older appliances that are more likely to emit particulate matter and also have more carbon monoxide. They have much higher rates of asthma and much more impacted lives because of it. So something that I just am very adamant about is that we actually think about the air quality inside our houses, and make sure that our gas appliances are properly vented. And part of that is having carbon monoxide alarms that will tell you whether or not your system is properly vented. But also things like using your vent hood over your stove when you're cooking to remove those pollutants from the home, while you're creating them. So now our final utility, we're going to move on to electric. And so you're going to be on Georgia Power on the west side of Atlanta. They cover most of the state, honestly, and they're really the main utility. Your bill will look something like this. This is only a snippet of it. They obviously it's like 2 pages and it has lots of other information on it, but this is the part that really matters. It tells you how much you used, how much you owe, and it kind of breaks down some of the fees and things that you pay. So this is from Georgia Power's interactive sample bill calculator. So if you go to this link, you'll actually see they have an interactive version. You can hover over, click on all these like little numbers, and it'll give you an explanation of what all these things are. You can also go to the Public Service Commission's site and use their bill calculator, and it actually will, you can put in like your usage and check your bill and make sure that it's right. You can like look at what it would be if your usage increases or decreases, etc. The other thing that's nice about the Public Service Commission's calculator is that it breaks out this line item called current service, number 35. So this is something that bugs me about Georgia Power's bill, is that this current service is very ambiguous. It doesn't tell you what you're paying per kilowatt hour. It doesn't tell you that there is base fees put into that, as well as other fees for fuel and I believe energy efficiency programs and things like that. So there's a lot of stuff that's contained in this current service bill. So you don't actually know what you're paying for. So if you really want to know more about what's in that and how you're paying, like how your bill is actually calculated and what you're paying for, check out the Public Service Commission's bill calculator. So the average home uses about 1,000 kilowatt hours per month. This is the unit that they're going to bill you in. Again, it doesn't per se matter for you to know what a kilowatt hour is. It's a unit. It's a kilowatt for 1 hour, but it's just a unit of energy. And the average household uses about 1,000 of them per month. That equates to an average bill of about $135 per month. That will vary by season, obviously. So if you have, if you have AC, it's going to be higher in the summer. If you have AC, and if you have electric heat, then it's going to be high in the summer, in the winter too. So that varies obviously throughout the year, but on average, the average user is $135 about. The majority of your energy is actually going to be used for electricity is coming from heating, cooling, and water heating. So those are the things we're going to focus on mostly when we look at, how do we reduce bills? There's this other chunk that's called other, that's from, appliances and other appliances and things. Those, while it's a big chunk, it's many diverse uses. And so it's harder to track down exactly what that is. And so it's kind of beyond what our scope is today. We're not going to talk so much about that. The first thing I want to talk about for saving on energy bills is using the right rate option. So while you don't have a choice of who's going to provide your electricity, it's going to be Georgia Power, you do have an option to have different rates on their program. They actually have about 8 different rates for residential homes. There's tons more for commercial and industrial, but there is only about 8 for the residential. And honestly, there's 3 that I want to talk about today that are highest use. The first one is just normal residential rate. It's probably what you're on. If you don't know what rate you're on, you're probably on the residential rate. You pay just about the same rate for each kilowatt hour per month, and it's kind of year round. It changes seasonally, but it's essentially paying the same per kilowatt hour. It's the easiest. It's certainly the simplest rate to understand, but it's not. There's other options that can be more convenient or save you money. The first thing I want to talk about is this flat bill option. So this is the ability to pay the same bill every month year round. So if you have an average bill of, let's say, $135, instead of paying $200 in the summer and $60 in the wintertime, you pay $135 every month, even across the year, which is great, except for the fact that the luxury of having that service costs about 5 to 10% on your bill. So Georgia Power, if you read the fine print, they add a 5 to 10% adder to your bill for the luxury of having a flat bill. So you can have a flat bill, but you're going to pay something around $100 per year in order to have a flat bill. But this is something I think is really important because I talk to a lot of people that are on flat bill, and very few of them actually realize that they're paying more on average than they would if their bill varied, because I think it's just buried in the fine print. They don't understand that they're paying more. But I don't have a problem with it. I think that it's, for certain people that they may find that luxury to be worthwhile to have a consistent number on their bill every month, but do know that you're paying about $100 per year, like $10 per month, to have that luxury. The last thing I want to cover here is time of use rates, which are, we talked about the residential is like you're paying the same per kilowatt hour. So every amount of usage you pay about the same every, no matter when you use it throughout the month, etc. But time of use rates vary the cost of energy by the time of day. So it costs them more. So think of like a delivery service. It may cost them more to deliver packages during like peak periods because they have to hire more drivers and they need more trucks and things like that. So it costs the company more to deliver energy, so they can reflect that in these rates. They're called time of use rates, or TOU. And so you can actually, if you can avoid using energy during these peak times, which typically are right around the evening when everyone gets home. So, it's 5, 6, 7 p.m. at night on a summer day. and everyone gets home, they start cooking dinner, they turn down the AC, they might take a shower when they get home. Like all these things contribute to expensive energy at that time. So people who are on time of use rates, who can reduce their usage at that time, actually save quite a bit of money by buying cheaper energy at night. There's also quite a few programs that Georgia Power provides. Again, there's a senior discount for qualifying low-income seniors. There's a link there to find all those resources and any eligibility criteria. They also provide energy efficiency assistance for low-income customers. So this is free energy saving improvements. They will come to your house, they will do an assessment, they will implement things like changing out bulbs. They'll fix the like drafty windows, and they'll add weather sealing around doors that will save you money over the long term. And that's all free for low-income customers that qualify. There's also additional energy improvement programs that they run for everyone that are essentially rebate programs. So if you go out and get more efficient appliances or weatherize your home and seal the leaks and add insulation yourself, there are rebates for that. The other thing that they give a rebate for is an energy assessment, which is getting a contractor to come to your home and fix leaks. They will, not fix leaks, to find leaks. So they will come and they'll take measurements, they'll take pictures, they'll use a thermal imaging camera, and they'll find all of the ways in which your home is costing you money and leaking all of your hard-earned like heat and cold out through the walls and the ceiling and the floors. So that's like the best step one that you can take towards energy efficiency, because it tells you, it benchmarks, what's wrong and how do I fix it. So you can, if you look at the link at the bottom of this slide, there's a link to Georgia Power's energy efficiency programs all there, and there's quite a lot more information on there for you to peruse. Really kind of quickly on like treading lightly on the topic of like things you can buy and change. LED lights, while not a huge portion of your bill, they're only about lighting's only about 5%, I believe, on here. So lighting composes about 5% of your bill. But the reason why it's only 5% of your bill is that we've vastly improved the efficiency of lighting. I know a lot of people still refer to your electricity bill as your light bill, and that's because 30, 50 years ago, a huge portion of your bill was lighting. And that's because lighting used to be so inefficient. Well, the newest, latest and greatest in lighting is LED lights. They will last 10 times longer, and they'll use 1/10 the energy of your old like incandescent bulbs. The ones that get hot, the glass bulbs that shatter and they get hot, those ones are just much, much worse. It's really, if you still have old bulbs in your house, it's time to upgrade them, and they will pay for themselves like within a year or less. Each one will save you, upwards of, $5 a year in energy savings alone. Compounded with, when you look at, summertime, all those hot bulbs make your house hotter. And so your AC runs hotter or harder to keep your house cool. So I very strongly recommend, if you haven't already moved all of your lights over to LEDs, you can always get more of them. The second thing is retiring an old refrigerator. Georgia Power actually offers a rebate to get rid of your old fridge. So older refrigerators tend to use more energy than newer ones, but also a lot of times when people, get an old refrigerator and they want to, they get a new one, they just keep the old one, they start using it for drinks, or they, keep, some extra, use the freezer for some extra meat or something. Well, that costs you money, especially with older fridges, because they were much less efficient. So Georgia Power actually incentivizes you to get rid of them. They'll come haul it out for free. They'll give you $35 on your next bill, but then you'll save upwards of $125 per year just by getting rid of that fridge for free. So if you can find a way to live without your second fridge, or to upgrade to a new fridge, you'll save a decent amount of money. The other other two topics that I kind of want to touch very briefly, dehumidification, which a lot of people have dehumidifiers in their houses or their basements or their crawl spaces. It's a little bit beyond the scope today. It's a little bit like, 102 course type of thing. But I do want to say that for those who do have them, they can cost a lot. It's like upwards of $50 a month in electricity to dehumidify. And there are ways to reduce that by reducing the drying load, etc. If you do have a dehumidifier, I recommend doing some more research. You can always reach out to me if you're interested, and I can help you out. But yeah, there are ways to save on the amount of cost, how much it costs to dehumidify spaces. And then the last thing here that I don't want to go too deep into is solar. Photovoltaic panels. They're awesome. They produce energy, and you can both offset your usage, and you can also sell energy back to the utility, and they will pay you for it. I will say about this, the first step is really to do energy efficiency. You should try to reduce the amount you're using before you get solar, because solar is really expensive. It's more expensive than these energy efficiency measures. So if you have $1,000, you're going to get more out of that $1,000 by fixing your home and sealing leaks than you are going to from buying solar and putting it on your roof. So my recommendation is that we reduce our usage first. That said, I have solar in my house. I do really like the system. It's going to be very economically viable for me, but the payback periods on them are 10 or more years versus many of these energy efficiency measures or that reduce your usage are much faster. 1 year, 3 years, 8 years, not 10 plus. So the thing that I want to hit the most here is HVAC, because this comprises probably 50% of your energy load is your HVAC system. So I think the main thing that I want you guys to leave here knowing about this is that you should think of your house as a leaky bucket. So if you have a bucket that has a hole in it, if you put water in it, it's going to leak out and it's going to just return to being empty. Your house is the same way. If you turn off your HVAC system, it's going to go back to being ambient temperature within some amount of time, a day or whatever. But the other thing to know about this is that the more heat or cold you put in, the faster it actually leaks out. So if you think of it like this bucket, there's holes all up the side of it and the bottom. As I fill that bucket up, it's going to come out all more holes, and it's going to leak faster and faster as I put more in. Same thing happens with your house. The more you cool down your house in the summer, or the more you heat up your house in the winter, so the bigger difference between the outside temperature and the inside temperature, the faster the heat leaks and the more expensive it's going to be to maintain that temperature. So with that in mind, we now know that we can save energy by either filling the bucket less or plugging the holes. So the first thing we're going to talk about filling the bucket less. So the first idea is that you can set back your temperatures a little bit. That reduces the speed at which heat energy leaves the home, and so then you need less to keep it at that temperature. So for every 2 to 3 degrees that you move, it'll change your energy use by about 10%. So that equates to about $50 per season. So if in the summertime you move your HVAC system from 72 degrees to 75, you can expect that you're going to save about $50 in the summertime. So if you do that in the summer and the winter, you'll save about $100 per year. That varies based on the house, but that's a good general rule of thumb. The other thing that I was going to say about this is that there are great ways to accommodate making this change. In the wintertime, fans do a really good job of making spaces that are a little bit warmer feel more comfortable, and dehumidification as well, which your HVAC should do. as well. Your air conditioner also dries the air as well as cools it. So if you use fans that use much less energy than your AC unit does, you can make 75 degrees feel like 72 while saving $100 a year. On the other side, in winter, you can make sure that you use or you can increase the amount of humidity. So humidity makes a space feel warmer. And in the wintertime, a lot of times our houses are very, very dry. So by increasing the humidity with a humidifier, you can make your spaces more comfortable, even if they are a little bit colder than you would normally keep them. Finally, I want to talk a little bit about, we can talk about turning down your thermostat when you're away. So, thinking back about the leaky bucket, if you were trying to, let's say, water something in your yard in the afternoon, you wouldn't fill your leaky bucket in the morning because you know that when you come back, it's going to be empty. The same thing is it applies with your house. So if you are gone all day long, it doesn't make sense to keep your house at temperature the whole day so that it's ready for you when you get home. So smart thermostats can help with that because they can automate the schedule. They can say, I know that you left home at 8 a.m. and they just turn off the system or they turn it down. And your house will be at a different temperature while no one's home and no one cares whether it's a little bit warmer. And then it'll turn on the HVAC right before you get home. So while there's no difference to you, the house was actually at a different set point all day and you save money. But you can do that as well yourself. You can turn it down when you leave, and you can turn it back up when you get home. The other thing that I want to say about this is there's kind of a little bit of a myth around, overloading HVAC systems. While it's going to use more energy if I, let it go back, and then you got to move it all the way up from, in the summertime, if you're trying to haul your temperature down all the way from 78 down to your 72 set point, it's going to use more energy than it saved all day. It's just not true. There's also the myth that it's damaging to the HVAC system, and that's also untrue. Your HVAC system runs at essentially one speed. That's the reason why your HVAC kicks on and off, is because it doesn't vary. It turns on and it turns off. Well, it doesn't matter. It doesn't care if it runs for 3 hours or 1 hour at a time. It actually runs better if it runs for 3 hours at a time than 1 hour at a time. So I will say that those myths are actually kind of they're kind of complete myths, and it does save you energy, especially if it's a long period, like while you're at work or while you're sleeping, to dial back your thermostats during those times. Finally, we were talking about with a leaky bucket you can plug the holes, but this is obviously more expensive because you actually need to put in some amount of work and materials. The first thing is you can weatherize your home with, you can seal air leaks and you can improve insulation. I recommend, I'm going to plug these Georgia Power Energy Efficiency programs again. They can both do them for you, but they also help you find contractors that will do that work and that can perform those energy assessments, and where they can tell you what's wrong with your home and what you can actually do to fix it. Sometimes they'll even tell you, what your return on it is. So they'll tell you, look, you can do this. It'll cost you $500, but you'll save $100 a year. So in 5 years, it makes sense for you to have done this. But you can also do things yourself. So there's really low-hanging fruit is DIY sealing gaps in windows and doors. So if you can see light around your door, you can install a new weather stripping around the door. And same thing with windows. At the start of winter, go around to your house and make sure that all your windows are closed and locked and fully sealed. It's really easy to forget about that because there's a warm day in November, leave one of your windows open an inch, and then you realize that in February that you've been leaking air the whole time. So make sure that your windows and doors are sealed. You can use caulk and other things to seal them to seal drafts as well. And all that is really easy stuff that you can do that you don't necessarily have to hire someone for. So really, just to wrap this up here, I want to summarize kind of the main points we had here. The biggest thing for me is you should apply for discounts. as both low-income households and seniors, there's always things available to you. So look up those options. The other thing is to, if you have a gas service, some of us have electric houses, but if you have gas service, actually shop for your marketer and choose a fixed rate for your gas. That will be by far on here the most savings that you could get from any of this, really, is just go on the Public Service Commission site, find the cheapest marketer, and get a fixed rate. The other things that we should do is to focus on the largest sources of, cost. For your energy, it's this HVAC system. You want to make sure that you have weatherize your home. You can hire people to do an assessment and find out where the leaks are, and so where is all of your hard-earned money going to heating or cooling your home. On the water side, toilets, showers, and faucets are the big users, and they're all pretty easy to change out and pretty cheap to change out. So highly recommend focusing on those areas if you are interested in reducing the usage so that your bills go down. The last thing I'm going to plug here is your public service commissioners. So the Georgia Public Service Commission is the one that sets rates for Georgia Power and for Atlanta Gas Light. They have a huge impact on what you pay on your utility bills, and the commissioners are elected officials. There are 2 races, I believe, this year on the statewide ballot, but almost every, I'm pretty sure every ballot, every statewide election year has a public service commissioner on the ballot. Stay informed about your public service commissioners and vote for public service commissioners that will lower your bills. That's all I have to say tonight. I'd really love to take questions if anyone has any. I'll open it up, but we are running a little bit low on time, but I can take a few if anyone has any.
I had some questions.
Excellent. Thank you, sis.
So, I know you were saying about the refrigerator, how you could change out an old refrigerator. Mm-hmm. So is there a way, like, is it considered an old refrigerator depending on how long you had it, or is it depending on like the model or something like that? How do they consider it like old?
I would consider it based on age. So if it's older than about, probably at this point, it's more like 15 to 20 years old. I believe Georgia Power's page on the fridge rebate program does have they have a requirement for how old it has to be. I think it's something like 15 years.
Okay. Also, so as far as saving money, as far as when it comes to the HVAC and the air, mm-hmm. I thought it was interesting because my kids like to put the fan on in the rooms, and I always thought that increased the could have made my bill possibly go up. But it was interesting that you said it could maybe help like the air circulate. So it's not making it go up.
It will technically raise your rates. I mean, the fan does use energy, but if it makes you more comfortable at a higher temperature, it will save you money because you can actually use less HVAC cooling your home, and the fan will make up for that. And a fan uses something in the range of like a tenth or even less sometimes the energy of your HVAC system. So if you can, if you run, a few fans instead of running your HVAC system, you're gonna save, 60-70%.
Okay. Well, I mean, the air is on and they're using a fan.
That's fair. I mean, yeah, there's also, I'm not against people being comfortable. If they need the fan to be comfortable, I recommend using the fan. But if you didn't have the fan, they'd probably want the AC to be cooler, I guess.
Right. Yeah, that's true. What would you say is a good temperature? I think I've heard like if you keep it above 72, so that's really good. Or
the like usually standard, like what people consider as the baseline is 72. It's what most people say is like the most comfortable. I would recommend, if you're trying to save, you usually move away from that. In the summertime, it's better if you can go a little bit higher. So we keep our house at least at 75, but we actually, with the use of fans a lot, and kind of we tend to, stay only in a couple of rooms of the house. A lot of our house stays like more like 77 degrees, because we're not really in it. But like one of our rooms stays pretty cold, and so we spend more time in the living room where it's cooler, and one of our bedrooms is pretty cool, and so we just spend more time there, and the rest of our house is like 77.
Okay. Yeah, we usually keep it around like 75, 76.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a very reasonable
Yeah.
level to be at.
Okay. And my last question I had. So I've heard that someone told me that changing out my shower head, like they have these shower heads that they say can help you save money on your water bill. Do you recommend that? Is that really true, or?
Oh yeah, absolutely. So I mean, you have to choose the right shower head. Although I will say, if you have an older shower head, they use much more than the newer ones do. So there are, I think there's actually like regulations around this. So the EPA, the Environmental Protection Agency, does have limits on how much water they can use, like as a per minute type of basis. And I believe like now the number is like 2 GPM is the highest max rate that they can flow at, whereas old ones might use 3, or so yeah, new ones use much less, but yeah, you can usually I'm not as familiar, I haven't bought a shower head in a while, but sometimes they do list how much water they use. My recommendation is get one that's 1.8 GPM or lower. It's that metric is gallons per minute. So 1.8 or lower. There are some that are 1.6 that are pretty good still. I mean, I think everyone's kind of been in like, they've used like the like the public showers, or like a hotel room that had one of those really skimpy water heads that feels like you're getting misted on. They've come a long way. There are some that are in that 1.6 to 1.8 range that actually you wouldn't notice the difference. My house actually has one that's in that flow rate range, and it works very well. We like it a lot.
Okay, cool. Yeah, in our house, I mean, these shower heads were, I don't even know. I mean, they look new, so I'm thinking they're newer, but I don't know they were here when we moved in. So
well, you can always reach out to me if you want to talk more about it.
Okay.
I'm like 100% happy to like chat offline if y'all want to do like a house visit, or like take pictures and send me things and be like, hey, what's this? Should I do something with this? I'm totally happy to do that. So
okay, I'm gonna reach out to you, because I I do have one thing that was weird. I was like, I don't know, we need to call somebody about this. So
yeah, no, I'd love to help that. Yeah, that'd be great. I don't have any other like things to mention. There's no other like hands raised or anything, so we're kind of up on time, so I'm gonna go ahead and call it there. But thank you so much. I will have this is recorded. I'm going to post it up, and also provide these slides for people as like an ongoing reference, so you can get to all these links and things like that. But yeah, thanks for coming out, and I appreciate it. Have a good night.
Thank you.